one of the takeaways that I had as a business owner through COVID for small businesses was that no small business should ever allow a customer to come into their store without capturing their cell phone and email address. Because once COVID hit and customers aren't coming in, but they still may want your product, but they're banned from coming in from whatever regulation, or they're afraid for their safety, is you can call them, text them, hey, 15% off of home delivery, we'll bring it to your door. Yep. But if you don't have your customer's information, you are literally stuck at the mercy of whoever walks in that door. And so for the takeaway for all business people listening is that you should have a gimmick or a giveaway or something. Every person that walks in the door, that they exchange their information for some gift or some 10% off or something. Yep. Now you're ready to go. Like you say, switching your business model to 80% delivery overnight. They could have been texting those people and hey, let us bring you a pizza by at half price tonight. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? Mm-hmm. And so it's really important.
Welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. Today is an exciting day because we have Bob Parker from Owasso Land Trust on. And today's going to be a cool episode because I think as far as asset management and property management and leasing, there's a lot of jobs out there. If you want to get into commercial real estate, if you want to learn about commercial real estate, there is endless amounts of opportunity in asset management, property management, and leasing, right? And for a lot of people, that's kind of their entry or their exposure to, wow, this could be awesome, right? So before we get into a ton of that, let's just get into who Bob is, a little bit about the background. What are you doing now? I know you're with the Owasso Land Trust now, but you've been in this industry a minute. You've been in several different shops. So give us a little bit of rundown about some of your experience.
So I started in 1994. I came out of the steel business in Atlanta and came back and went to work for Whiteside and Grant, regular broker joker, walking the streets, knocking on doors, trying to do some deals.
Like, will you list your property? Will you sell?
Yep. I'm Bob Parker. You should do this with me, right? I know nothing except how to sell steel. So did that for a few years. And then in 2000, I got to know a guy that worked in real estate at Walmart, which I didn't really know Walmart had. I knew they bought real estate and did stores, but I didn't really understand the idea of corporate real estate. Got to know this guy over years, and I had just gotten my CCIM designation. And he goes, man, we really want one of those CCIM guys here.
So how did you meet this Walmart real estate person?
Friend of a friend, man, like fraternity guys.
Okay.
Arkansas fraternity guys.
Okay.
And so just, hey, this guy works at Walmart. You should get to know him.
Okay.
So a guy named Scott Stokenberry. Turned out to be the smartest redneck I've ever met from Paul Huska. You'd think he doesn't even know how to plant corn, but he's freaking brilliant. So in 2000, I had said this to my wife before. I said, God, I really like the idea of being in charge of a shopping center or an office building, somewhere where you get to kind of look at it from a strategic standpoint, a long-term standpoint, not just a hit them and quit them deal.
Right.
I liked the idea of that stability and that long-term relationship stuff. And so, and coincidentally, I'd said something like maybe the Sanditon's. Well, I did Walmart for 3 years, got rid of dark stores.
So you were working for Walmart?
Yeah. Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Texas. So Walmart would leave their 100,000 square foot regular store to go to a super center.
But they own the building.
They would either own the building or be in a long-term lease, which they did a lot of sale leasebacks to fund their growth in the 80s and 90s.
Did you work with Stan Johnson at all during that time? It seemed like he did some stuff with Walmart kind of starting out.
Yes.
May have been that was earlier than 2000 he was doing.
But yeah. Not on the disposition end, but they did on the front end because he was doing a lot of the sale leaseback sales.
Gotcha.
Exactly. It was so complicated. They would package 20, 30, 40 stores, put it in one thing, basically a financing tool, and it would be a 20 or 25-year lease, which worked great if you stayed in the store.
Yeah.
But if you left that store, it got a little funky, particularly on the full disposition end, because you had to untie these things. That's the one out in Broken Arrow that sat there at 71st and 193rd for all those years. It was in one of those, which is what complicated its disposition.
It seems like a tough thing to do. Go own a 100,000 square foot building and have to lease.
I got to say, it sounds like a real piece of shit. A vacant Walmart.
It's harder than it sounds. I went over there.
Sounds hard.
I went over there
thinking
I was going to show them, how to do
all
things.
these up.
And then I got really good at flea markets, Hispanic markets down in South Texas, Hobby Lobbies, Atwoods.
Probably had your list of
furniture.
potential tenants that can
About
take
10
100,000 square feet.
About 10 of them, and then you're done. You're like sitting on it, figuring out what to do. And but after a few years at Walmart, you're either a Walmartian or you're not, right? And so I had gotten what I needed out of it, and came back to Tulsa. And coincidentally, the Sanditon's were looking for someone to run their real estate. Scott Sanditon had passed away, and Jolene, his widow, needed somebody to do it. So it was just bizarre to get to slide in that deal. And so they had 10 or 12 shopping centers and parts of this, parts of that, a lot of old Otasco properties because they were the old Oklahoma Tire and Supply.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of leftover stuff there, and then a lot of stuff that Scott had bought in partnerships. And that's the first time I learned about syndication and LLCs and how to do that, because that was his gig. And so did that for a few years, then got introduced to Ben Latham and Rusty Richardson. And they were doing Advance Auto Parts.
Yep.
They had their shopping centers, and then they were doing the Advance Auto Parts. So
Were they developing those?
Yep.
Okay.
So from kind of 03 to 08, when things fell apart, they probably did 30 or 40 of them. So that was great. I didn't have to do anything on the front end. We had a guy that was going out, finding the dirt. They were building the building. I got to sell them. And it was,
Nice.
That's a lot better than a vacant Walmart.
Seven,
right?
7.5 caps. But it was basically commodity. Worked a little bit with Stan Johnson to help to get some of them done. Those were fun years but what I had learned to do over those years was how to run a center, how to run a multi-tenant property year over year, doing the budgets, taking care of utilities, taking care of maintenance, talking to these tenants, because most of them, frankly, are just mom and pops. They're just people that wake up and run their insurance company, run their nail salon, run their restaurant. And so that's my skill set.
Yeah.
Is engaging with them, partnering with them. I represent the landlord. I am the landlord. I've got to increase the value of that asset. And I've got to make sure I'm returning the investment to the investors. But I've got to make sure that my tenants are able to pay their rent ultimately, but also that they're coming in and they're able to fulfill their dreams and ambitions in our center. And that's the fulfillment I get out of it is getting to engage that. I have 220 tenants that I'm kind of responsible ultimately for their dreams, their life, their job. So did GBR for 9 years, and then got an opportunity to run the NAI franchise, and that worked out did that for a couple years. As it turns out, I'm more of a deal guy, not a great people manager guy. So because I kind of do my own thing, it's we do things our way, and if you don't do it, then I don't even need to mess with you anymore. And I'm just not good at that. Great people, but it just wasn't right for me. Did that for a year, which was a great place to land, a great place to kind of catch my breath, and really it made me a better property manager. I've always said I'm a real estate broker that pretends to be a property manager, and that's really it. Because a good property manager is the one that can say no, and the tenant says thanks at the end of the conversation. They still like and respect you. It's the property manager that's always, the tenants don't want to see, or they don't feel like they're partners in their success. You got to, so
that's a good point. I just want to comment on that. We have really good, property managers, but I always tell them that you have to be the tenant's friend. I can be the bad guy in the office that doesn't quite give them their rent reduction or doesn't, pay for the HVAC, but you, the one dealing with them, they need to feel like you're on their side and you're going to bat for them to the management, to the ownership.
Absolutely.
And so that's a really good point for people that are in the management game, is you've got to be able to play that card. And if you want to be the tough guy and the bad guy and deliver that bad news, you're never going to have the relationship you need to get honesty and trust out of those tenants. Absolutely.
It's, ultimately you're wanting them to pay the rent. And I say that jokingly. When I'm showing space, I'm like, I'm going to make sure you're successful because I want to make sure you pay the rent, So, but when we create that relationship,
Kidding, not kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, and they get it. And if I always try to explain them why the lease says what it says. Why, as the greedy landlord, this is why we have to have things. And if you do that, if you give them that respect, and they're not unreasonable. I mean,
They're business owners. They
yeah.
understand.
I mean, sometimes I joke and say tenants are basically like children. They'll do exactly what you let them get away with, and so forth, and bad behavior and so forth. But ultimately, you sit down and face to face explain to them, here's why this is. Here's why CAM went up.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's always a tough discussion.
We had 3 snow events last year, and we budgeted for 1. Did you want the parking lot to be icy and slippery? No. Okay, so that's just how it works.
Another interesting point, you say the tenants will get away with whatever you let them get away with, and it's interesting how we're having our weekly calls, and I've had to talk to my staff about, okay, we have 10 tenants that are late, and it's the 10th, it's the 11th, it's the 12th.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, have you assessed the late fee? No, I mean, we were trying to work with them. And I'm like, guys, this is why they're not paid on the 10th, because there's no penalty.
Yeah.
And so then we have to sit around every week and as a group and talk about it. And then we're going to spend an hour or 2 hours. We're going to call them. We're going to email them, leave messages. All that's costing us money, all because you didn't do what the lease says, which is assess the late fee on the 6th. You do that 1 month, they're going to pay the rent on time next month. And if they don't, great, you get an extra, late fee along with the rent.
Yeah.
Because if ultimately they don't pay it, then they're going to have to go away. Most of the time, they don't want to do that. They want to have their business open. So
It's like that with everything, though. I mean, trash is a really bad one. We've got a Habitat for Humanity restore, which is kind of in the like Goodwill-ish department mixed with an Ace Hardware, I would call it, if you haven't been to one. But anyway, they've got shit behind their store every time you go back there and look.
Yep.
And we were tired of asking. So what we did is we just removed the crap from behind the store and we started sending them a bill. And they were like, why are you guys sending us these trash bills? And it's like, well, because you don't want to take it up. Yeah. Now, every week, they have somebody come up and pick up their own stuff because I'm sure they found it cheaper than what
Right.
I didn't care how expensive it was. I just wanted it gone.
Yeah, restaurants can do the same thing.
Yeah, grease traps are freaking disgusting
behind them. And you're right. But you've got to, what I explained to the tenants on the late fee is, believe it or not, we have bills too. I know you don't believe that.
Yeah.
I know you think every landlord has this bottomless pit of money and we just do this for fun, but we have mortgages. We're paying for the lights out in the parking lot. We're paying for your landscaping. And if you don't pay on time, then we can't pay our bills. In 2017, I got introduced to David Charney, Pete Curtis, and Greg Simmons.
Yep.
So Owasso Land Trust, the Owasso Mafia.
It is true.
And I sort of knew Charney through Jolene Saniton and different Tulsa things. Didn't know Greg, didn't know Pete at all. Turns out at Tulsa, Smallsa, our lives were super connected. We just kind of didn't know it. We all fell in love with each other. Brian Beam was wanting to move on and do more development stuff and kind of get out of that day-to-day asset management. So at the time, I think we had like 470,000 square feet that we sort of managed, and now we're at 1.2 million.
Oh, that's insane.
And that includes stuff we've built, some third-party stuff, the George Kaiser Family Foundation stuff we took on.
And you do other third-party stuff.
And,
I mean, there's
so
plenty of stuff
been,
there.
Our system is honed pretty good. We have a good software system, we have a fantastic staff, and so we found ourselves able to seek out other choice third-party assignments, and it's paying off really well. So for 5 years, that's what I've done. What I was able to bring to them, they didn't do budgets. They didn't really, as sophisticated as they.
And you're coming from the Ben and Rusty, both CPA budget.
Yes.
I mean, Nazis.
Ben Latham, financial genius. Rusty, greatest deal maker I've ever met. Those two guys, man, was an amazing partnership. And so I've taken from both of them. But Ben taught me the importance of the penny. He taught me the importance of details, and I wasn't great at it before, and I'm still not great at it. Like I said, I'm a real estate broker pretending to be a property manager, but I know enough of it, and I geek out on the budgeting process because I like planning. I like looking into the next year and going, okay, what are we doing? How's the roof? How's the parking lots? What are we going to do to enhance this center? And then I totally geek out on hitting that budget or beating that budget, whether that be, getting more rent than we anticipated or paying less OPEX than we anticipated. And at the end of it going, okay, I told you we were going to return 12.5%, but now it's 15. Aren't you happy? And that's where I really take a lot of joy in doing that. And so that's what we do. So we initiated budgeting. We do better reporting now.
That's kind of, I can't get over the budgeting thing. So massive company and not really just.
Oh, what did we get this week or month? Okay, great. Can we write checks? Yeah. And it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't in that professional.
Now, you may tell the people listening, the Owasso Land Trust wasn't originally a commercial, portfolio owner, right? They kind of grew into that space, and maybe that's why they didn't have some of the expertise that you were used to having coming from that.
That's exactly right. David's an attorney by trade that became a home builder, and Greg and Pete are developer residential.
Yep. Now they develop commercial, but originally they were coming as one of the premier home building companies in the state, in this area, but definitely in Tulsa and Owasso. So
yeah, so they built Owasso, kind of starting in the early 90s, Bailey Ranch Golf Course, all that development. Pete did that. Greg came on and built homes. And so in the early 2000s, they kind of looked at the landscape and said, well, we got all these people living here now. They need, let's build a shopping center here and a shopping center here. And then they bought a old church and converted it to an office and a retail center. And so through the 2000s and up to the current day, they kind of accidentally got into the commercial real estate business and did a great job. Just kind of made it up as they went along, right? And then got into apartments. They've done a great job on.
Yeah, they built a great apartment.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and they seem to have made it make money, which is the flip of that coin, right?
Right. And it was really good if you built it 5 or 10 years ago and sold it at last year's cap rates. You looked like a genius.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And came out pretty good. That's when you buy jets and cool things like that. So anyway, that's what I've been doing for 5 years, and we've been able to grow the portfolio substantially and kind of create my own little world that is not tied to the residential, which, as we know, is suffering the results of policy changes and so forth right now. So it's nice. They really look like geniuses because I have this portfolio that's it might slow down a bit, but it's not going to be 2008 again.
Right.
It just stops and people can't pay. We all survived COVID and all those rent reduction requests, and I don't anticipate a big problem in whatever we're going to hit in the next 6 to 12 months.
You mentioned COVID rent requests, and that's something we've talked about before, and we've shared our thoughts on how we handled it. How did you and OLT specifically handle COVID and hey, we're going out of business, or hey, we don't want to pay rent for the next 3 months? Right. How did you handle that? I'm curious to know.
Well, case by case. What I tell people is, honestly, if you went to Owasso, you barely knew COVID was a thing. We never did mask mandates.
Never once.
So we didn't go through some the political stuff that Tulsa and Broken Arrow did. However, for example, my CC's Pizza, it's a pizza buffet with a game room. If people don't come in, he doesn't sell pizza. He wasn't set up for delivery. He wasn't set up for curbside. It was a buffet. So we had to work with him. We had to work with our CC's guy. But he's fine. He's a great guy. He owns 1 million of them.
We have one.
We knew he was solid. Greg's a great guy.
Same owner?
It probably is.
The one at Perimeter that he has, the one at Redbud that we have, and the one that he has in Owasso is the same guy.
Same.
Yeah,
same guy.
He's
great operator.
I think he has 27 of them or something. He even has some in Texas. So I knew he was solid. I knew he would figure out a way to get through it. The Andolini's guys, geniuses. They literally flipped in 2 days, found pizza boxes, did the curbside thing. They changed their entire business model from 10% takeout to 90% takeout for that, whatever that period of time was. Never missed a beat.
One of the takeaways that I had as a business owner through COVID for small businesses was that no small business should ever allow a customer to come into their store without capturing their cell phone and email address. Because once COVID hit and customers aren't coming in, but they still may want your product, but they're banned from coming in from whatever regulation, or they're afraid for their safety, is you can call them, text them, hey, 15% off of home delivery. We'll bring it to your door.
Yeah.
But if you don't have your customer's information, you are literally stuck at the mercy of whoever walks in that door. And so for the takeaway for all business people listening is that you should have a gimmick or a giveaway or something. Every person that walks in the door, that they exchange their information for some gift or some 10% off or something.
Yep.
Now you're ready to go. Like you say, switching your business model to 80% delivery overnight. They could have been texting those people and hey, let us bring you a pizza buy at half price tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that? And so it's really important.
You are so right. I tell you, one company that's really good at it is Acai, the smoothie bowl.
Okay. Yep.
Jason's a really smart businessman, and so he opened in Owasso.
How's the old dry cleaner spot next to the wing shop, right?
Yep. So
They opened in Jinx here.
Yeah. So he gets your cell phone, and man, at least weekly they text me, hey, we haven't seen you in a while, come in, $2 off.
Yeah.
Just what you're saying. And it's, there's an overload of that at some point, but if you're on the front end and you're creating that, I love it because it does remind me. It works. Like I'll be sitting there at 11:30 or the worst is, when you sit there at your desk and you work through lunch and now it's 1 o'clock and you're starving, but I don't want to go drive through and get burgers and fries, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to get
a healthy
smoothie bowl. Feel good about it. Get $2 off. Yay me. Yeah. So the COVID deal was a case by case. I know some owners who just said, everybody gets a free month. We didn't blanket it like that. Our insurance guys, they didn't miss anything. There were a lot of people that never missed a beat. Yeah,
my big response to tenants, there were a few that we had to work with, but most of the time they're like, hey, we can't pay our bills. We're going to have to shut down. And I would just say, prove it. Go do it.
That's the Ben Latham model. Show us. And then once the PPP money started coming in, we just started directing them to that.
Yeah.
And some of them came out. I mean, honestly, that's how CC's guy was. Yeah. And again, he taught me a lot because he was able to pay his employees. He never missed but it is that. And I learned that in 08. You guys lived through 08. 08 was same thing. All those same nationals. It was the nationals. It's the nationals. I have the attorneys and stuff, and they'll let's see what we can get away with.
Well, in COVID, we lost a few tenants. And so when people said, hey, shouldn't the landlord share in some of the burden here of the pain that we're going through? And I'm like, yeah. And the pain I'm going to share is the tenants that actually close their doors and don't pay me rent. That's what I'm eating that. But if you want to stay open, I'm not eating your rent. I'm only eating the ones that close. If you want to have an open business, you got to pay your rent. And you really get to know, okay, who can make it and who can't. But you're never going to know. A lot of landlords just agree to free rent because you don't know if they can pay or not till you force them to prove it.
Right.
So
that's absolutely the right way to go.
So coming into OLT, you said budgeting was huge. What were some of the other key things that you were able to put in place and really hang your hat on? I mean, asset management. But you came into this massive portfolio. I mean, what were some of the other things, or what are currently some of the things that you do that you think are just key to
driving value, maybe?
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's to me, my strength is the tenant relationship stuff and just kind of creating a dialogue that be strong through the good times and the bad, and then really taking my property manager had come from the apartment world, so she was talented, but just kind of was learning the commercial world, and it's different, right?
It is different.
The way you deal with the tenants is different. The
5 days versus the 10 days. I mean, everything about it. It's a different fair housing book almost.
Yeah. And so was able to kind of bring her into my philosophy, the way I look at tenants, and then do more on site, be there, right? And so I've got her. I've got a great maintenance guy, because a good maintenance guy is half ambassador, because he's the guy that's really on the property more than me. I'll sign the lease, and then I'll try to swing by every once in a while, but really I probably won't see him in great depth until it's renewal time. I mean, I'll try, but really the property manager and the maintenance guy are the ones that have those relationships. So
right,
good maintenance guy is worth it, and then good accounting. So we, the metrics by which we measure ourselves, kind of the growth of income, the return on investment, just know it. They didn't really talk about those things before. And it's easier to do when you've bought a property, paid $1 million for it, now it's worth $1.5 million. But when you've built it 15 years ago, you got to kind of.
They're just enjoying the cash flow, right?
That's
amazing at that point.
So they've been able to pay off almost every mortgage, and then those that they didn't, we took some opportunities to get some 3s and 3.5 type resets, and so like Pine Street Industrial Park is one. It's a 30 building, one street. It's right there at Pine and 169. That's been a 15-year build out, and we are just finishing the last 2 buildings. One of them's leased, one of them's available. 9,800 square feet at $8-9 a foot net. But this thing, they reset it. They refinanced it last year, and this thing is got a 20-year AM, and we're gonna be able to distribute. Thank you. Can you edit that, please?
Yeah.
Over $1 million a year.
Wow.
And
That's ridiculous.
It's the perfect. It should be a case study.
Yeah.
Because it's you're taking advantage of positive leverage, and you're returning. Because a lot of times, if you want to pay something down, you don't get to pay out distributions. You just do it. This thing's it's really we should box it up and make a book out of it, because it was a very patient deal. But and it's relationships with your vendors, your landscape guy, your electricians, your roofer. We have a great roofer, Harness Roofing. Is it sponsored by Harness Roofing? It should be.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. It's expensive though.
Those are great guys. People that can respond quickly to whatever the situation. Right now, great HVAC guys. Eklund, thank you.
Those are hard to come by.
Oh my Lord! And you talk about busy. I mean, the last 30 days, the next 30 days. Tough. I mean, these guys are going to be flying jets and having houses in Aspen. By the time it's done. My Lord, that's.
You're on the global warming train.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh my God! Well,
keep heating this thing up.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like a replacement 5-ton unit. I'm gonna be old man on the porch here. It was always $1,000 a ton, right? It's $5,000.
I still remember
$5,000.
Now it's double.
Yeah, I think we paid $9,200 for our last one.
I approved one yesterday for 97. It's a 5-ton unit. It was in St. Louis, but.
So you guys, let me ask you that. So I'm focused very much on Owasso, Tulsa area. We have built some industrial, some small industrial down in Oklahoma City, kind of the west side and the northwest side. But like some of the markets you were in, going back to COVID, did you see like the bigger metro areas? Did you see a different response to COVID that affected you differently than your Tulsa properties?
I didn't, but we've gone into those markets after COVID.
Yeah,
so,
more
I mean, Joel had some Vegas stuff and some stuff in Kentucky and Arkansas.
Yeah,
that went through COVID.
Vegas, the only challenge we had was they shut down restaurants and bars.
Right, so done,
which was kind of silly because you have hundreds of thousands of people going to huge casinos, right? But the bar in my strip center in Henderson shouldn't open.
Yeah, right.
Makes zero sense.
No,
but overall, no, we had challenges throughout the portfolio that we worked through. We had, even in the center that we office here in Tulsa, we had some challenges, same as we did in Vegas. We lost a few tenants, but we're able to release them. So
I think on the multifamily side, your multifamily portfolio did amazing through COVID, right? I mean, amazing.
I think multifamily in general did pretty well, because that's the first bill people pay is their home, right. their mortgage or their rent. And we got some federal assistance to help those tenants during that eviction moratorium. And we thankfully had very few tenants that tried to take advantage of that situation. We had a few, but most people overall paid their way through.
That is fascinating, man. Multifamily, ever since I've met you, has just been on this.
Yeah, I wish we would have purchased more of it.
All of it.
Everything.
All of everything we walked, if we would have bought when we did, we would have killed it.
Yeah, a few $100 million. But you can't spend too much time thinking in the past. I had a question I wanted to ask you before we wrap it up. You had gotten your CCIM designation.
Early, too.
And I've done all the classes but the final. And I probably won't end up getting it now, being an owner and not really needing it as much. But I was going to get your thoughts on that. Did it help you? How did it help you in your career? Did it maybe open your eyes to all the different ways of commercial real estate interactions? Tell us about it real quick.
Absolutely. So being the guy that sort of slept through finance class in college and cheated off the theta in front of him, I didn't exactly know all the investment principles, the time value of money and stuff. I mean, conceptually I got it, but not practically. So what CI 101, everybody should take CI 101. It's drinking from a fire hose, but it is simply that. It's time value of money. If I buy it now and I spend this money for 5 or 10 years and I create this value. If you understand that one principle, you can talk with investors, with sophisticated investors.
Interesting.
The rest of the classes have other parts to it.
So CCIM, let's break down what that stands for.
Certified Commercial Investment Member.
Gotcha. And what it's focused on is investment sales. Am I correct?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Well, investment.
It's in investment sales, professional leasing. There's some of that as well. It's not just sales.
Okay.
It's more, I would say, professional education for someone that wants to be in commercial real estate.
Right.
Instead of going and getting a degree in real estate at a university, which most people aren't going to do, this is something you can do post-college that gives you a well-rounded overview of commercial real estate professional type stuff.
Yes. And so there's a whole one on market studies, demographics. There's the sale versus lease analysis. That's a real good one that I still use a lot of. So it did a couple of things. This was the 90s. I was new. What was really cool about it was we did the classes kind of either in Tulsa or Stillwater, whatever, and I did one a year. And it was Marco, it was Looney, it was Monty Berry, it was Perry Dunham, it was Matt Klimish. I mean, all these guys, and now we're the old guys, but we were all the young guys then, and it formed. We just got to know each other. And that's that's been vital to my career, is my relationship with the other brokers in town. I've always said I'm a broker's broker. Obviously it's a competition in some ways, but to me, we have to work together. We have to be kind of above, we have to represent our clients, but we have to kind of be above the deal and get the deal done, because without us, deals don't get done. That's why I've said this a million times. I hate this when it happens, but when we really earn our money is when the buyer and the seller are not exactly happy. They didn't get exactly what they wanted, but the deal got done.
They're both
because somebody's in the middle going, be reasonable, quit being a jackass. You're not getting, this isn't worth this, and you need to pay this. And that's when we really earn our money, when everybody's happy and they didn't need us. So I kind of look at it that, so it taught me the education, and then the relationships and the networking that I did has carried forward 20 plus years. I mean, I was at a dinner last night. There was Marco and there was Rick Guild and all these guys that I've, I just love that. I love that. It's weird being the age I am and not being the young guy in the
39, right?
Yeah, 39 and holding. Been in business. I was gonna tell you. You'd asked me about enhancing value, and I was gonna give one last tip on what I did.
Yeah.
So these guys were sort of primitive in their thinking, kind of country boy type, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but they didn't like spending money on deals and would rather keep the rent low. And so I showed them that within reason, if you will spend a little bit of TI money or give a little bit of free rent and then get your rent that you want, the highest that the market will bear, it substantially enhances the value of your property. I mean substantial. The difference between, I'll give you a deal, you won't spend any money, I'll give it for $12 a foot. When the market's 15, 17, 18, but they're doing deals like that. I'm like, you're going to keep your value down here if we will spend a little bit of money.
Let's do an example on that, right? Like you've got 5,000 feet and you're getting an extra $3 a foot.
Yeah.
Right. That's 15,000 a year. And those are probably 7 cap assets, or there's 7.5 cap.
That's okay.
7.5 cap.
Yeah.
That's 200,000 in value.
Right. And so you spend 20 grand in TI. And so that's what I was showing them. You'll spend $5 in TI.
And it's even better than that, okay, for people that are listening, because let's say you're going to spend 20 grand, but you get 15,000 more in rent the first year. So you're basically,
back, yeah.
if you're going to keep the center, you're getting, what's that, 80% return on that money, right? You gave them 25 and you gave them 20 and you're getting a 75% return on your money yearly. And so if you think in those terms, and when you sell, you get 10 times the money.
You've enhanced the value.
And so
Yeah.
that's a huge point when you're talking about leasing is rent increases. We've done a whole show on it, are so important, and it's almost worth any amount of TI, all things being equal, to get the rent increases.
So we had one office building, 2-story office building behind El Tequila there, and at one space had never been built out. It's concrete, no lights, no ceiling. And last year I spent $275,000 in that building, which was chunky chunk, right? In a 20,000 square foot building. So they were all kind of, what are you doing, Bob? What are you doing, Bob? I took the value of it from 1.7 to 3.2. So for $200, so that's the way I had to present it to him. If I told you that if you gave me $275,000, I will give you $1.5 million next year, would you consider that a good investment? Well, of course. Yeah, that's what I did, and that's the case study that I showed them the value.
So, do you think you can get that thought process from CCIM?
Absolutely. Those are those principles in play.
Yeah, they go over some of those types of examples.
You learn that, and you can learn it in a finance class if you pay attention and don't.
And you can apply it to something outside of
actually go to class.
Yeah.
But the CCIM helps it, and it puts it in a real estate perspective. Here you're buying this building, you're buying this center, you're buying whatever apartments, and so it's good to have those examples, and then you can play with it. Some people can take it too far and just zone people out, but if you just know it in the back of your head and you can talk it, that's what somebody wants to hear. That's what, if you've got your investors, you got your guys that your pro formas are CCIM in action, man. I mean, you guys should give a class on on how to, but CCIM helped a lot, and at the end, I mean, it's to me, it's totally worth getting across the finish line. Just from hey, I did it. I finally did. There's so many people that take all the classes and then they're at the 99-yard line. I know, man.
This guy over here. I haven't started, so I'm good. I haven't started a thing.
The issue for me, and we got to wrap this up, but I took those classes back 15 years ago, before my real estate companies had really taken off.
Yeah.
I moved out of the country to India, managed an office there, came back, still worked in oil and gas. And so then by the time I got back into real estate, my company's kind of exploded. It wasn't as pressing, but I still, I guess, could do it. I just maybe have to study some of those to pass that final.
There's a course concepts review. There's a 2-day course before you. I'll help you, man.
So, Bob, thanks for joining us today. It was a good example, and we always try to educate people on this. There's just so many different avenues into commercial real estate. There's so many different ways to add value to be a part of the industry. And once we've talked about it, once you get in the game, then the opportunities start coming your way, whether on the management side, the leasing, the brokerage, the owning. So we want to encourage people, just find a way to get in. This industry can make you a lot of money and can be a lot of fun as well.
Yep, I love it.
Alrighty, guys. Well, make sure to go to our website and sign up for our investor list so you get all of our investment opportunities. And then Bob, if you want to follow up with him, I'm sure you can find him somewhere at the Owasso Land Trust website or something like that.
Land Trust, you'll find me.
All right. Well, we will catch you next week on how to invest in commercial real estate. Bob, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.